Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to another version of Tuesday Topics. My name is Michael White. I'm a real estate broker with RE/MAX Integrity Realty. We're based out of Denver, North Carolina. Again, for those of you that don't know where Denver is, we're a suburb of Charlotte, and Charlotte, of course, is the home of the Carolina Panthers, as well as the NBA franchise Charlotte Hornets. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about a problem I ran into not too long ago with a client that had a unpermitted space. So I go in and talk to this client. They were looking at selling their house, and they showed me a single car garage they had converted to a bedroom. They had framed in the front of where the garage door was. They had framed it in. They had put in some light sockets and outlets and some switches. They had framed in a wall, created a closet. The garage, of course, is pretty long, so they sort of divided it into half. So they had like a little utility room on one end, and the other part was a bedroom, a nice little sized bedroom. So of course the first question I asked was, well, did you get a permit? Did you pull a permit for this work? And the answer I got back was no, we did not pull a permit. So of course, being an experienced real estate broker, I knew we had a problem. And so I told the owner he had two choices. The first choice was he could go get a permit, and then we could measure the heated living area that had been added to the garage, counted as heated living area, and that would probably add a little bit of money to his sales price, and he'd make a little bit more money out of it. And that's what he wanted to do to start with. The second option he had was, well, we disclosed that it was not permitted, and we counted its other space, and odds are we wouldn't be able to get the money out of it on the sales price. We had to go in a little bit lower sales price. And then two, it casts some doubt in buyers' minds. I mean, most buyers don't like the idea of buying something that wasn't permitted. They got no idea of the quality of the work, and so it would be a problem. Well, so my seller decided he wanted to go ahead and get a permit. So here's what he had to do. The first thing he did, he called the local building inspection department. Now, I live in Charlotte. Or near Charlotte. And so they contacted the Charlotte-Mecklenburg County Inspection Department. And Charlotte Inspection Department, they require that you have a bond. Now, of course, if you know what a bond is, so essentially it's an insurance policy. It's a third party, an insurance company, guarantees that they will cover the cost of expenses if you, the buyer, or the buyer of the bond, the person that gets the bond, if they don't pay the bill, then the insurance company will come in and handle it. So the cost of that bond was about $100, and it was a $2,000 bond. And that had to be obtained first before the Mecklenburg County Inspection Department would allow a building permit to be pulled. The second phone call the client made were the subcontractors. Now, again, we had electrical work that had been done. We had HVAC work that had been done. And so there wasn't too much. So there weren't too many subcontractors, but there were a few. So the problem we ran into was finding a subcontractor that was willing to more or less permit work that they didn't do. I mean, these contractors, they spend a lot of time and effort getting a license. They're protective of that license, and they just don't do things when they don't know what the kind of work that's been done. Luckily, the client had some friends that were electricians. Had an electrician that was a friend, and had an HVAC guy that was a friend, and so they went ahead and they agreed to do the work. So they were the licensed subcontractors. Now, a key thing to remember, especially in the state of North Carolina, when you're acting as your own general contractor, which is legal, the sales price, or not the sales price, but the actual price of the project, or the value of the project, cannot exceed $30,000. In this case, we were lucky, and the price did not exceed $30,000, so he was able to act as his own general contractor. So now we got subcontractors on board. We got the permit pulled, and the work begins. So the electrician comes in. He does what he has to do to get the project up to code. And the HVAC guy comes in, he gets it up to code. They had to do some spraying of insulation in the ceiling to help it bring up the building code. But we were able to do that, and that wasn't a problem. The key thing to remember here, though, is that even though the work was done 2 years ago and was probably at the code at that time, was probably met that code, it still had to be brought up to today's code. And there had been some changes in the last 2 years that required electrical outlets to be replaced and a couple other things. But they weren't major problems, but it was a problem. So needless to say, all the work was completed. Didn't do a lot of damage to the sheetrock. They didn't have to tear out a whole lot of things, but I have heard stories where people have had to tear down walls. They've had to tear out complete walls, tear sheetrocks off walls, and more or less take things down to a completely unfinished area. They had to tear down everything they had done prior to getting the permit. So that's not, don't be surprised. The inspector has the authority to do that. They can make you tear things down. So luckily, we were able to get it fixed, and the seller now has listed the property, and we're going to try to sell his house. Key thing to remember here: the seller estimates that it took about $5,000 to get the permits, tear everything out, put it all back together. It cost about an additional $5,000 on top of what he paid back 2 years ago in order to do the work the first time. If you just take the time and pull the permits to start with, we're looking at about $500. That was just for the cost of the permits, and the rest of the work would have been whatever it was 2 years ago. So the lesson here is get a permit. Always get a permit. Got any doubt, get a permit. So I'd like to hear some feedback from you. If you, I'm going to give you my contact information at the end of this video. Feel free to send me an email. Go to our website. I got a blog about it on our website. And we look forward to hearing from you guys. We'll talk to you again. Stay tuned for the next Tuesday topics. Thanks a lot. Bye.